Hola, caballeros. This is Mark, your friendly neighbourhood GM from New Zealand, and I smell trouble ahead. I can just tell Ipo's going to get too greedy for his own good, and I can tell that Takata's paranoia is going to overcome him. And I wouldn't mind placing a small wager that something is going to anger Silver Frostfang, and he will end up getting himself into big trouble. And as for Greckle, will he be content to just stand there looking tall? I doubt it very much. I can see that he's going to try and sort everything out for them, and with his big wooden spoon, stir it and make it a damn sight worse. Anyway, I hope you're ready for another exciting episode of 9 Lives, Death and Glory. On with the action! Arriba! Okay, so off we go again. You've had quite a lot of information from Sifax. You've learned that the 20 crew members get a 10% share of the gross profit, which they're expecting the gross profit to be 100,000. So that would work out about 500 a head, which compares to the upfront 150 and then 150 if you make it back alive, inverted commas, guaranteed payment. The 5 officers also get a 10%, 10,000 if it is 100,000 share. So for them, it's 2,000 a head if the terms they've on. There is a cleric who is part of the crew of the Armadillo, so that there should be healing on hand and other spell casting abilities. Here's an old man called Walnut Honeytoad, who may have some strange habits, but we'll find out about those later. And the captain of the Armadillo is a doughty dwarf. It seems that Sifax likes to employ dwarfs, called Pythagorax, Captain Pythagorax. And you can probably guess what his favourite weapon is. He was, before he was a sea captain, an engineer, and he is a man of some geometric precision. Those are the terms Sifax has offered. Questions?
Takata asks what kind of slaves they're expected to be transported.
Well, in answer, Sifax knocks his fingers together and cracks his knuckles. And the answer he gives is that it's going to be a cosmopolitan hodgepodge. He is going to try and bring back, he says, as many different exotic species as possible, but it depends on what the different places have been convicting. And he really hopes, he tells you, that there will be particular types who prove very popular, and that's where he can focus his operations.
All right.
So you can probably hear it's a little bit of a cloak and dagger, cards close to his chest answer.
Okay.
Ipo, got any questions?
Maybe roll a persuasion check to see if he maybe will be a little less guarded about it?
Yeah, you can. Roll your persuasion check and I will call out the number for you. I'll have my eyes glued to the Roll20 chat as I give them another shameless plug. 12. 12 for persuasion, unfortunately, isn't going to make much difference on someone like Sifax. And he indicates that he's leaving this to his officers. The reason why they get the big pay share that they do is he doesn't attend to all these details. Captain Pythagorax, Walnut Honeytoad, and the other officers, they are expected to come up with the game plan and execute it. And if they don't bring back the bacon, he replaces them.
All right.
Greckle looks around at the other folks and say, look back at Sifax. Can we have a moment or two to chat among ourselves?
Certainly. I need to relieve myself. Call of nature. Enjoy the garden. And he swings Runcibald up by an arm, whisks him almost off his feet, and trundles back into his house, leaving you alone in the garden.
So Greckle will lean over and pluck a flower and start eating it, because after all, Sifax said enjoy the garden, and he's going to do that. And he looks at everybody and says, what do you guys think? Is this a job that is something we should be doing?
No, cheap ass selling my services short.
Well, we gotta stick together, but at the same time, this takes us out of the city. So, I think, yeah.
That's a good point. I'm not too comfortable about this whole slave thing. I still don't quite get my head around it.
And
But
I think that is an important thing to consider. How do all of us feel about slavery? We will be
Exactly.
helping out with it if we do this job, so I think that matters.
that's what I'm kind of getting nervous about. It's like we have some forces kind of focused on us right now, and we might want to kind of leave town. And this is a good opportunity, as Silver says. But I get, I'm kind of siding with Takata here on the whole, like, I'm not sure if I'm down with this. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do here.
Can I make a perception check to see if anyone glance around to see if anyone is listening into this conversation?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
So your perception roll is 11, but do you share your concern with anyone else? What I'm inviting you to do is encourage anyone else who may want to make a perception roll.
Seeing Takata kind of look around, I kind of look around also just to see if there's anybody, eavesdropping in.
Let's see how your perception roll goes.
Mine is going to be horrible. But I'll do it anyways. Oh my god. That's a 13.
13. Okay, guys, if Sifax did have some eavesdroppers, you probably wouldn't be aware of them.
No.
So you don't know. I rather think that Greckle might be quite confident in his abilities. Don't know about Takata, but that's down to you guys. But on those rolls of 11 and 13, I can't give you any guarantees.
Yeah, Greckle looks around and doesn't see anybody and assume everything's fine.
Okay.
Silver's gonna see them.
Everyone-
Silver's gonna see them both look around and just do his own, and just look around as well as like, what is everybody looking around
Someone
for?
gonna give Silver advantage? Maybe? If the DM will allow it?
Well, I tell you what I'm thinking, Solace. I'm thinking at the moment that I'm giving you all a roll, which is like double advantage.
Okay.
I can roll if you want.
Up to you. I think this is one of those things where it's harder to help each other. So that's why I quite like the idea. If you want to, you will get to roll. If there was a cleric here, someone could give you guidance. Silver clearly is already at sea in his own mind with his roll of 7. And it doesn't sound to me as though Epo is that concerned.
To be
Not
fair,
really.
For Silver, he did say, "What is everybody looking around for?"
Yeah.
To be fair,
You're not aware of anyone. You certainly don't
everyone.
see that elf vitriol in the shadows.
Okay, everyone. Keep quiet for this. You can use this paper to write down if you want. Remember, this is just a suggestion. But I'm not sure all these slaves being taken will be deserving of it. He is aiming for exotic ones for a reason, after all. And it will require subtlety, but if we went on this mission, we'd go out of town and maybe be able to help some slaves along the way.
Greckle takes the paper from Takata, and he writes down, do you remember that elf woman, Majan, at the arena? She was concerned about this, exotic slaves being taken for, their interest rather than their crimes.
I did notice a couple with you talking with her, he says after he writes down after he takes the paper back. Maybe we could get some help from her then if we can find her.
And then Greckle speaks up at this time and says, okay, let's take this job But see where it goes.
Takata nods.
Looks over at Silver and Ipo.
Epo just shrugs.
Silver looks at you guys writing on the paper, and just shrugs as well.
At this point, you do notice some figures, but they clearly are coming from too far away to have overheard you. You can see some domestic help coming to clear away the remains of the marquee and the hospitality that Sifax offered to the students, and also 3 people to tend to the garden, one of whom immediately noticed that there's a flower head missing, but doesn't make any fuss about it whatsoever. And that probably makes you, I would have thought, a little bit more confident that no one else was around before. And you can see from the way that these people behave, there's a spark missing from them.
Just like they're people who've done this job long enough that they're tired, or just tired people, or that something else is going on. Can I make some kind of insight roll or something to discern that?
You say that they're probably slaves. I would think they were.
Yeah, I'm going to say without rolling, you can roll if you want to, but you're putting it together. These are clearly slaves who have had the rod of obeisance applied to them. They look healthy enough. They just look disinterested in life compared to a typical person.
Okay.
So you're going to do the formalities with Runcible and sign up, are you?
Takata makes it clear, though, that he can't leave for at least a couple of days.
And I'm going to ask for a haircut. Epo's going to push for a haircut.
Epo is told that there is one vacancy amongst the officers. And if he wants to take on the position of ship purser, he would be considered for it, and he'd be eligible for a 1/5 share of the other 10% that goes to the crew, the officers' share.
So what's a purser?
He deals with the finances on board and the provisioning. He's purser and quartermaster.
Oh, yeah, I normally say quartermaster, so yeah, I can do that. That's what I was thinking anyway.
You want to put your credentials forward for that? Yep.
Yes. All
right. They ask a few questions, but it's very easy because Epo's beginning to get a little bit of a reputation for himself, and his way of going about things quickly causes Runcible to say, "The job is yours."
Thank you.
Good with that?
Yes. I slip him another business card. I got tons of these things.
Runcible
I've probably got like 6 already.
Runcible looks at Epo and he says, "You'll have a new set of business cards for this voyage tomorrow, Officer Epo."
I'll take them.
He tells you that you can come at midday tomorrow, and he asks you what font you like. Well, what handwriting style? Curlicue script. They have monks who do these really nicely, and you will have a card saying purser and quartermaster.
I'll just have something straight to the point, simple and straight to the point.
Papyrus.
You can have an illustration of Greg on it as well if you want.
Not paying for it.
This is thrown in so that you can look impressive as an officer.
If you have the time to do it, go for it. It is your image.
Yeah, it is an important thing. And also just, of course, it has Sifax's emblem on it. So do you think that concludes your business with Mr. Sifax?
Yes, and I'm going to go get the supplies if I can for the things that I want to make.
Yeah, okay. So the party is going to split up in a moment because Takata and Greckle are going to go to Dung Beetle Scrubs, where the survivor of the fight in Scabby Rag Alley is going to be interrogated, and Takata gets informed of that. And Greckle is going to choose to go with him. What's Silver going to be up to, Raymond?
Silver's going to go off and buy food. Buy 50 gold pieces worth of food ingredients. And have it with him at all times. Because he doesn't know when
so
they're
you've
leaving.
You got downtime. Anything you want to do like that, you can do. And if you want to name it now, that's great. If you want to name it later on, that's also fine. Same for you, Hugh, with Epo.
You wouldn't have anything fancy on a sea voyage. Most of it would just go out of date.
Okay, so maybe you want to have a think about what anything you might add to the norm of what a ship would have, and if you want to do anything, that's fine. If you're happy to just follow with what the last voyage did, the previous quartermaster, that's also good.
I want to
only
make
other-
that item that I suggested to you, and I also want to make a diamond ring out of the diamond that I have.
Okay, no problem.
Mark,
yeah.
when does the armadillo sail?
That's what you want to know, isn't it? So you haven't asked that question directly of them yet. They want
I would know.
They want to sail not tomorrow, but the morning after.
Okay, 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days. And I will also throw in that however she's going to contact you, you do have an invitation to dinner with Majan.
Good to know.
Yeah, she has named this restaurant, which is just below where Silver resides. So it should be pretty easy to connect with her. So your debate about slavery and what you said about her at the slave market and her comments and your concern about Sifax's trade, you certainly are going to have an opportunity to follow up on that. So we skip now. We skip along merrily without going through the streets of Portree, and we find ourselves back in Dung Beetle Scrubs, an impressive...
I have a quick question. Did we decide to take any money up front?
Yeah, I think maybe like Greco would be asking for he'll ask for the 10% of the profits rather than the 150 split.
As an officer, EPO is on his fifth share of 10% as well. There's no upfront payments to the officers.
Okay.
Good thing is, you also know this, if crew members go down, your sharing goes up.
Oh, nice.
If EPO has Greg eat the other 4 officers, he's a rich fellow.
But also, I have to make some type of solvent solution so that Greg doesn't rust.
I think that's what you're going to need. That's partly why Sifax or Runcible were asking you about Greg's seaworthiness. So I think we've got EPO on a percentage. Same for Takata and Greckle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sol, yep.
Yeah, I
Silver?
guess.
Silver's in the same boat. He's doing percentage wise.
Already. Fabulous. So do we hop, skip and jump along to Dung Beetle Scrubs now?
While you're doing that, I'm going to quickly BRB.
Yep. So we can do anything to do with EPO's construction work after this, anytime you want to, Hugh. So at Dung Beetle Scrubs, Takata and Greckle are hospitably but officiously shown into a room close by the cells. And this fellow who survived the fight, unlike his comrades, sits there unrepresented by any lawyer. And the man who, on behalf of this Portree City Council, is interrogating him is a rather severe man called Farenskier. He nods at Greckle and Takata as they come in, and it's quite clear that he knows they were involved in the fight. He pushes a business card across to both of them, indicating his title as City Inquisitor, more than one, and his name, Farenskier. And he then sets about his job of interrogating, asking questions. What sort of questions do you think he'd ask?
Probably like who does he work for and why did he attack us?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He does do that. He does it in a gravelly, still voice. 1, who do you work for? And the man looks at him and clearly doesn't want to answer. And he doesn't answer. Farenskier asks a second question. Why did you do this? And the man still doesn't answer. Farenskier doesn't ask a third question. He stands up and he walks round to the other side of the table behind the man who has got his hands manacled to the table and his feet bound to the chair that he's sitting on, and he looms over him, and he bends in, and he speaks directly into his ear, and he says, "The rod of obeisance may be gone, but that does not mean you will escape servitude when convicted. If you do not answer my questions now, then you'll be made to answer them, and you will do so in extreme pain." And there's silence for a while. And he gets up, Farinskir, and he walks back to where he was standing before. He stands there without saying anything. Till suddenly, he slaps the palm of his hand down hard on the table. And he says, "Now, answer."
If Takata can, in the same instant that guy's palm hits the table, he casts thaumaturgy, and in response, the ground rumbles harmlessly.
Ground rumbles harmlessly, but not necessarily reassuringly from this fellow, whose name is Oswald Mosey. Don't know that his name matters, but I like giving these characters. Now, Oswald looks startled. And Farinskir holds his gaze, doesn't look at Takata or Greckle at all.
Greckle actually leans over to Takata so that he can see Greckle speaking. Did you feel that earthquake?
Takata gives a small nod, but he's staring very intently at the prisoner.
The prisoner looks at Takata briefly, and then he turns his eyes down and won't hold Takata's gaze. Farinskir says, "The next time something rumbles, your teeth will fall out."
Greckle holds his mouth, his hand over his mouth. Well, other than holding his hands over his mouth because he's afraid his teeth might fall out, he's just kind of listening right now. But he's paying attention and just kind of looking at the ruffian, at Oswald, and waiting to see what he's going to say.
As Greckle gets up and lays hands on Oswald, Farinskir, for the first time, looks directly at Greckle. And you can make an insight roll.
Insight. Yeah, Greckle's not good at wisdom. That's a 6.
Farinskir gives quite a sharp look to Greckle that he intends to mean, "Do not resort to violence." Takata, with his roll of 12, gets this. Greckle, with his roll of 6, takes precisely the opposite meaning.
That's an old roll, so I can...
roll again for Takata. I apologize.
I thought you were only asking Greckle, that's why I didn't know. But I will.
18, even better. Is Takata going to intervene?
It depends on what Greckle does. He's watching closely.
So what I'm telling you, Hugh, is that Greckle has misread Farinskir's intention.
All right. So, in the court, were we allowed to bring our weapons at all?
They didn't stop you this time.
Okay. Greckle will approach Oswald, looking at him intently, slowly moving over, grasp his shoulder, puts his hand on his scimitar, and is slowly drawing it out. And when he does this, as he does this, Greckle's going to go full goblin voice on him and say, "You better start talking, or I'm going to cut that throat."
How does Takata respond?
Does Takata get the sense he's serious?
You want to do it? Well, all right. I'm going to say with your roll of 18, you're sharp at the moment. Takata, is Greckle serious, Hugh?
No, he's not serious. He's trying
right,
to
you realise that. You realise that. You absolutely realise that. So you're going to stay still?
Okay, so he stays there, and if he ever feels like the threat turns serious, he's ready to leap
Okay.
up and react, but only if he feels it turns serious. And right now he's just remaining sitting there, his intense gaze not wavering.
You know Greckle a little bit by now. Not for a long time, maybe, but you spent enough time in his company over the last day or so to begin to read him pretty well. Not so Farenskier. Farenskier is alarmed and appalled when he sees what Greckle does on his watch. And he shoots a hand out towards Greckle's wrist that is going for the scimitar. What does Greckle do?
Greckle will just continue on, and if Ferenczi's hand grasps Greckle's wrist, Greckle will stop, but maintain that eye contact, maintain his hand on Oswald's shoulder.
Okay, I'm going to give Oswald a roll now. 11. Oswald sees what Greckle is doing, and he sees Farenskier react. He doesn't read that Farenskier is going to stop Greckle. He sees hostility in Farenskier's action, coupled with Greckle's threat, and he collapses. His shoulders shrug, and he tries to put his hands out, spread them wide, but he's manacled to the table and he can't. And he says, in my boot, that's all I know.
I look at Ferenczi and say, should I cut off his leg?
Farenskier smiles at this and he winks at Greckle, the eye that is furthest from Oswald. And he says, if you find something of interest that gives an answer to us in one of his boots, he can keep his feet. But if there's nothing there, cut them both off, and I'll give you immunity.
And Greckle gives a very pointy goblin smile and leans in towards Oswald and says, what boot? Left or right?
Left.
Right. I reach down to take off his left boot.
When you take his left boot off, you don't have to take his rather ancient and threadbare sock off, because at the bottom of the boot, you see a coin.
Coin?
You see a coin with an emblem on it. And the coin has 7 suns on it, arranged around a purple ribbon or road leading up to the toppermost sun, all set within a purple circle with a mainly white background and a lilac hue at the top of the circle for the top half of it. And as you pick this up and look at it, the other side is just plain silver. Farenskier sighs, and he bangs his fist down hard on the table again and calls for guards.
I kind of hold up the coin so that Takata can also see the symbol.
Anything he recognizes? Any roll I can make?
Yeah, you can. You can choose. You can choose between a history roll or religion.
Or a history or what? Sorry?
History or religion.
Let's see what's better.
Girl would also like to take maybe a history roll at that.
Ugh.
No, Takata doesn't recognize it, but Greckle does.
Yeah, it's a 20 for me, 3 for Takata.
Yeah, it looks utterly unfamiliar to Takata, but this coin bears the stamp of the Mistra religion.
Mistra?
Mistra is the one who made the weave before she got reincarnated, wasn't it?
The point here is you, like Farenskier, recognize what this indicates. And when the guards come in, just before they take him away, Farenskier looks at Mosey and he says, you're going to tell me that you were given this by a hooded figure, aren't you? And Oswald nods. That's enough, he says. Take him away. Do not have him harmed. There could be repercussions unless we get this straightened out. And he asked Greckle to give him the coin.
Greckle hands over the coin to him.
We're indebted to you again, sir, he says.
Wonderful. That'll be 100 gold pieces.
I'm not in a position to reward you for a civic duty.
I'm just kidding. Don't worry about it.
And then he does smile, but you can see he's a little bit on edge.
I actually say to him at this time, I go, so what are the implications with all of this?
Frankly, beyond me in detail, but I've got a crystal ball that tells me it is not good. You know, I'm sure that we have a number of religions, mainly good, that do perfectly fine work most of the time, but they jostle for power. And with this rod destroyed and the Arathis temple position under threat, being questioned, and now we have these Mistrans involved in an attack on you, what I want to know is why they're so interested in you. But I don't suppose you're going to tell me, and I'm certainly not going to have you manacled to this table like that man after what you've done. So if you want to, if you can tell me, please do. I'm sure it will make my life a lot easier.
Greckle shrugs and then looks over at Takata.
Takata shrugs as well.
He then turns to Takata and he says, it may be that these Mistrans simply want to stop evolution in its course and stop the goblin population getting taller. But I think it's more likely that their interest is in you, sir. Your timely cantrip suggests to me that you have much about you that I cannot read.
This kind of mysteries.
Again, I ask, do you want to tell me something that will just simply help? He says, I'm not going to ask you to tell me your secrets, but if there is something you can let me know that will help me in my job, my duty, please do it.
Takata raises an eyebrow and just does a shrug, like,
He sighs and he says, I respect your privacy and I repeat my thanks to you. Your good deeds will be noted and will be added to your public record.
We got a public record. Excellent.
Yeah, keep it good, he says to Greckle. It's useful to have a good public record.
Oh, that can be bad as well. Oh.
He smiles at Greckle and he says, I know these things can be confusing, but stick with it, sir.
I'm trying.
He looks resigned to having a lot of paperwork to deal with and a lot of overtime to do. Have you had your fill with Farinskier, and or do you want to ask anything else?
I'm gonna ask him. Mr. Interrogator, Farinskier, whatever your name is, the rod in a basement. What, like, is it gone?
Yes.
So totally destroyed.
Unless someone is deceiving us, which is entirely possible in my opinion, but of course I have no proof.
So does that mean that all of the slaves that it was charming are no longer charmed?
No, we've seen that they're still behaving in an entirely charmed fashion. It would seem that either the spell doesn't end on the rod's destruction. Maybe, I don't understand these things. Good question to ask, but no. So unless there is a massive conspiracy and deception beyond belief, and all these slaves are about to come to our homes at night and cut our throats, no, I don't believe that they've been freed from this charm.
And I look towards Takata and say, yes, it's about time we get on a boat.
Farinskier says, if my father was dead, I think I'd be joining you, but I couldn't break his heart.
Yeah, Greckle has no more questions. I don't know.
Okay, so you guys are gone. You leave Farinskier behind, and you might well go back possibly to Silver's place.
Takata has
Yes.
other business he'd like to attend to.
Okay, well, before we do that, first of all, what's Silver been buying?
Silver's just been buying a bunch of fruits, vegetables, honey, salt, sugars, spices, and herbs to preserve them for the trip. Because he knows how to do that. He is a good chef, after all, who stayed on a ship for a good 5 years. So he had experience.
Has Silver worked out who his boss is yet?
What?
Has Silver worked out who his boss is yet?
Nope. But it doesn't care as long as he gets to cook on a ship again.
On the ship, in terms of the provisions and the ingredients, the supplies, the provisions, of course, he reports to the quartermaster.
Silver doesn't know that yet.
He may not have realised it, and I don't know whether Epo has, but effectively, Silver's boss on this ship is going to be, his direct boss is going to be Epo.
I'm probably just doing research on the place that we're going to. What kind of commodities sell high there? What kind of commodities sell low here? And just try and go back and forth and see what I could sell for profit.
The other officers,
What they're
particularly
lacking.
the spellcaster Walnut Honeytoad, if you can track him down, and maybe the captain. How much effort are you prepared to put into that?
I imagine Epo would put a lot of effort into it.
So you're quite happy to miss the dinner, are you?
Yes.
All right, then. So we got a couple of social scenes.
I
The
think
dinner
Epo
at
was even invited to
Lugosi's.
that because he wasn't there at the time.
Yeah. You
But he
could have
doesn't even
probably
know about it.
wangled your way in. You probably could have wangled your way in, but you will be able to catch up. Not with Walnut Honeytoad. He is a slippery customer, and where he is, no one seems to know. They may seek him here and they may seek him there, but where they find him is probably only going to be aboard the Armadillo. As for Captain Pythagoras, he's another matter, and it's not too hard to track down his favourite tavern. So we quickly go over to his tavern, which goes by the name the Sullied Trousers. Popular with the dwarves. It's it's a cultural joke that they're quite happy to live up to on many occasions. But the Sullied Trousers is a place you're not going to get your throat cut. So you find the salty sea dog, Pythagoras, and for all his crustiness, he is a man of deliberate method. What do you want to know from him?
Just what type of commodities would sell well over there, what their culture's like, stuff like that. So I get a general idea of what would be good to bring and what would sell. If I could make anything that would be worth something over there.
The answer you get is that you can depend upon tobacco and silk and spices. On top of that, well-made instruments.
Probably do
Doesn't
that,
mean
yeah.
musical instruments. Basically, tools. Precision tools rather than rough artisan tools.
I can definitely do that. I think I've got a lot of them.
And when he realizes that you're the new purser and quartermaster, there are two jobs within one. One is a money job and the other one is a provisioning job. He shows you every bit of cordiality. He's not at all standoffish. He'll stand you drinks for as long as you stay.
Epo probably doesn't ask for any drinks. He's just one of the people that just go into business mode and then they just focus on that.
Okay, well, he doesn't mind if you go. He's got his mates with him. He's about to set sail and he's going to be partying hard tonight because he wants to clear his head tomorrow before he sets off again. So you can tell that he's a man of some responsibility because he's doing his drinking the night before he leaves. The night before.
After that, I'll probably just go out and get the supplies I need.
All right, then. So he's given you the information you've asked for. You can do any insight roll on if you want to, but really he's just told you this stuff straight up. Yep.
I'm going to trust him.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not thinking there's any reason why you shouldn't. You've asked for perfectly reasonable information, and he instantly respects you because you've been given this job. You're one of the 5. Even though he's the captain, he's on the same share that you're on.
Exactly. That's why I trust him completely. Because
Yeah,
if I make
he's
more money, he
accepted
gets more
this.
money.
Yep, and he likes that, and that's one of the reasons he's quick to answer you, and he doesn't give you any bullshit. The only thing that you particularly note about him in terms of characteristics is when his next tankard of ale comes and it is not quite filled to the brim, he gives a very steely look at the boy bringing his drink over, who scurries back and tops it off. Doesn't like being shortchanged as Captain Pythagoras.
He may be a
Okay,
bit
so
racist, and he just thinks to himself, dwarves.
yeah. Okay, so we have a big moral theme to our tale: slavery and racism. That seems to be what's keeping us afloat.
Indeed.
At the restaurant Lugosi's, you are in the company of the elven woman that you met at the arena, Majan. She knocks at Silver's door just after 7 o'clock in the evening, and she greets you warmly, inquires after your well-being, and she tells you that she's booked a table for 4 of you and her 5 at Lugosi's. And she clearly has been expecting Ipo to be there. My friends, I know that you have made a connection with Mr. Ipo, whose good works have reached my ears. Is there any reason why he's not joining us?
So far I know, he was doing some business. He's not able to join. But the bright side, and then next thing you know, a white ape appears right next to on my shoulder. We do have this little fella to take his spot.
She smiles and she makes a sort of cooing noise, and she says, "Do you mind if I stroke him?"
Go for it.
And she steps forward and very gently, very tenderly and calmly and respectfully, she introduces herself to the monkey. And if the monkey will accept her touch, she will treat it very gently and appreciatively.
Yeah, the monkey will accept the touch and jump on her shoulder.
When you get shown by the waiter in his tuxedo, bow tie, crisp linen white shirt, not a young man, someone who clearly has been doing this job for a long time and has seen some very fine silver set at tables, Majan says, "It wasn't just because you live below Silver that I booked the table here. This is the hardest place in Portree to get a table at the moment."
Did you use my name?
"I didn't have to use your name, but thank you for the implied permission.
No problem.
I booked a table here because, as it is the most expensive place and hardest to get a table, most popular at the moment, it's least likely that we're going to be eavesdropped upon. Forgive me for keeping my voice down, and I ask you to do the same."
That is perfectly fine.
"Can I count on the discretion of your friends?"
Silver's gonna
Across the
look.
street, you start hearing an argument. It sounds like Ipo and someone else as he's trying to move his wagon.
Yes, I can imagine. And you can probably hear that Ipo's winning the argument. Takata obviously is going to have no problem remaining quiet, is he? This is easy street for you, Sol.
Yep.
What about Greckle? Is Greckle going to keep us?
Yeah, Greckle will be fine.
He's going to be on his best behavior. It's not quite a job standing somewhere, but he just gets to sit here instead. The food at this restaurant is, there's 2 sections to the menu. One section, every item on the menu is red. And there is this fake vampire theme to it. But there is another, a white side, and all the same dishes are available without the colouring. And Majan chooses from the white side, and she nods to Silver, and she says, "I think the food doesn't actually taste any different if you go for the fancy look, but it puts me off.
Yeah, don't worry. I approved of this. If you look at front and see the A, that's because I checked and I approve of this restaurant. Besides, the red is only food coloring.
She smiles and she said, "That's very reassuring. I just wish that you could give me some more reassurance." And that is why I'm here with you. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned for my family.
Your family?
Yes, I have a brother whose wife is not an elf. He married a goblin, and that is all fine, and they have a very beautiful child.
Greckle kind of perks up at this. It says, an elf married a goblin and they had a child?
Yes? Is that strange to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
I hope it's not. I hope it's not an offense to you. He's a lovely boy.
Absolutely not. That's fine. I mean, there's hams out there, kind of like helfs, like half elves, there's hams. But I've never heard of what would you call that? An elf and a goblin. I have to think about that.
A gelf.
Well, I haven't.
A gelf. Oh my God, it's a gelf.
Yeah,
that's gelf. Awesome.
Well, that's kind of you because it does tip the balance in favor of my kindred, the elves. I'm hesitant to use name because to me we're people. And I don't like this labeling. But I've always thought of him as a golf.
I like that too. That's even better.
One day, if more people band together, join together, possibly even the one day there could be a golf club.
I would join that.
And I would pay for your membership, dear Mr. Greckle. But look, this is my worry, and I want to speak as frankly and plainly as this man Sifak. He's carried away now the rod of the base. His schemes are awful. They're monstrous.
So you think Sifak stole the rod of a basement?
No. I know what his plans are because I've had him spied on under someone whose services I value.
He's orchestrating everything.
My contact, the person who, you know him, you've met him, his name is Vitrol.
I thought so.
Yeah, that guy's a dick.
He's a good actor.
His interest
raises
lies
an
money
eyebrow.
He's the type of person whose interest lies in the money, I'd say it seems like.
I'm not going to speak for him. He's quite capable of speaking for himself, but I know that he's an acquired taste, but his services I have come to depend on and rely on. And Sifak certainly did not steal that rod, but he sees an opportunity now. And his scheme involves the movement of a good number of the goblin people as migrant workers to another land, and the jobs do not exist. And they will be declared vagrants and convicted, and that will be his cargo.
Greckle turns a little pale. Not so green, he's kind of a yellowish green now.
I know
Not
already.
Surprised he's doing something dirty like that.
If anyone is interested in money and nothing else, it is that man. So please, when you accuse Vitrol of things, do not put him in the same place as Sifax in that regard, at least.
Well,
what I want you to do, because I sense that there is a reason why you're here now together. I met you at the slave market. I saw what you did there, and I know of what you did in the arena. I know about that attack on you. You've attracted the attention of a lot of people who are wanting more than they need to have. And they just see that you potentially can be used to get that more. And I'm as bad as they are because I want to use you as well. I want you to put a stop to this.
Greckle, scratches his head a bit and says, I hear you. I understand everything that you're saying. And I feel that you're probably on the up and up. After all, you did approach Silverface there and me without us doing anything. We are in a good position right now in that Mr. Shifrax is hiring us to be on this boat. I would like perhaps to know a little bit more because your man VD there, he's like I said, he's sick. He wasn't telling us any information. But we would like to know a little bit more about this connection between this church, the staff, and the slaves, if possible. And if there's anything, there was this Mr. What was his name? LeFew, and this Hilden Irville or something like that he mentioned. What's all this about?
They have a clandestine amorous relationship and have done for more than 2 years now. Whether they truly love each other, how can I say, but I doubt it. I will venture that I doubt it. She sees his money as a means for buying the next election. And as for him, he sees her, I think, as a pawn so that his pet cult that he has in his pocket financially, the Mistra religion, will be able to eject all others, and he'll be free of any restraint that the clerical system here imposes. That's my reading of it.
Okay. So it's kind of a power
They're
struggle between the religions.
bedfellows, literally, and they're bedfellows in a scheme together that will do this city no good, and the people within it no good, and many people without it no good.
Okay, so Majan, what do you expect us to do?
I want you to trump Sifax's plan. These goblins, my sister-in-law included, cannot be convicted if they have jobs. I want to fund you, give them all jobs when you land.
We're having trouble getting jobs ourselves. I kind of look at everybody else. So Greckle looked at everyone else and then said, "Well, we're having trouble, finding jobs ourselves. How are we supposed to do this for all of these goblins?"
Sadly, my friend, sorry, I don't have the right yet to call you that. Sadly, sir, money speaks louder for many people than morality. And I will fund them. We will buy their freedom. We will ensure that they are not enslaved.
I got a perfect idea.
You can't poison them.
I'm not going to poison them. My idea is actually something good. I can teach some of them how to cook, and we could start a restaurant. Have them be servers, waiters, and cooks at this restaurant.
Yes, it could be some kind of goblin-themed restaurant. All run by goblins, something like that. Once we get you teach them during that time, and then once we are overseas or wherever, we can help them to put up a restaurant of their own there. So they'd officially have a job.
The city that he sailed to is called Nestlehaven. There's nothing particularly bad about Nestlehaven, but it has corrupt politicians who are bought and who do not need a rod to make them obey one master, money. I have an account there in the city bank that is funded well enough for you to set up commercial operations and, at least in this instance, thwart his scheme. And then we must find a more permanent solution. I sense that in this way we are perhaps kindred spirits, and what matters to me sits in your hearts as well. It is so, isn't it?
Greckle nod.
Silver nods as well.
Takata does too.
If my brother had married a woman of any other kindred, I would feel the same. And I believe you would too. I know that you have a vested interest, sir. She looks at Greckle. But your companions here don't have that direct blood incentive, motivation. But I see it in them and I see it in you. And I put my trust in you. I put my financial life in your hands.
Majan,
But
I got one more question for you. How do you see this all playing out in the big picture? So I mean, like, we have all of these cities that are involved in slavery. This is great. We might be able to help out these goblins, and I think we probably want to do that. But what's beyond this?
an accord for civic decencies between both Portree and Nestlehaven and all the other cities we can show the right way to. And so these things are enshrined in law, corruption is rooted out, and any religion who is rotten at the heart has that rottenness healed and replenished.
So social upheaval, change of governments, rebellion, and recreation of all of
It sounds
society.
awful. I know when I hear you say it, but what else?
No, actually, it sounds freaking awesome to me because I've been having a really difficult time trying to figure this out. And so if we can just start over, it makes things so much easier.
If we can find people who have good hearts and see this as being right without question, without faltering, of course we support them. If there are good high priests in the city, let them stand and let them hold their heads high. If the mayor will support us, let him run for office again. If he or a rival, if I can unearth more money, I'll support them without strings. I don't want to live like this in this place, and I don't want to leave. And I don't want my nephew to grow up like this.
This is a job that needs to ultimately be bigger than one adventuring party, but the mayor, we did give the mayor the thought about changing the system of how criminals are dealt with. I think with time he could be convinced to change it in Portree. And if we go about gaining favor from other people like that, we might be able to get their ear and listen to the idea too of changing how it's done.
And that smelly Ebola guy there, he's gonna build a bunch of like voting machines for the mayor, and so we can all vote for everything that Fuzzy just said.
You see her eyes well up with tears, and she dabs them away with a napkin that the waiter thoughtfully provides, and then she reaches into her bag and she pulls out a tightly wound scroll that looks of a very fine quality, and without hesitation she pushes it across to Takata.
Takata takes it and gives her a look, like glances down and gives her a look like, should I wait? Or
She puts her hand up to indicate yes, wait, and she says, this gives you complete authorization to do as you will with my funds in Nestlehaven.
Takata nods.
Drinks are on Fuzzy.
And she looks at Greckle and she says, I'm not intended as an offence at all, but Vitrol tells me that Takata has impeccable
Justice,
discretion.
unless she actually lets that name slip.
I remember you said Justice Morales. Vitrol's insight on Takata has made him suggest to Majan that she puts Takata in charge of this very large sum of money. And I think that is a good point to leave this one now. We didn't get to any combat, and I hope that we're not any the worse for that.
I think it went fun. Very fun.
So I'm going to tell Craig to sling his hook. No, thank you, Craig. I must have an NPC called Craig soon, do you think? Well, what do you think of that? They're rolling in money. How did they manage it? I don't think they robbed anyone. Was Epo even there? Hey, that's the answer. No Epo, and the riches come rolling in. So now they're set on sorting out the golf club and putting everything straight in Nestlehaven, I believe. Right then, don't forget to look out for the next exciting episode of 9 Lives, Death and Glory. You'll find us everywhere you find your podcasts. I'm not even going to tell you where to look because you know that already. But we want you to listen and we want you to spread the good word. We're trying to do our best with this, and if you've got any suggestions, make some comments. If you think the music's too long, tell us. If you think we don't speak up enough, tell us. If you think we do too little dice rolling, you can even tell us that. Whatever. Hey, is anybody out there? 9 Lives, Death and Glory. Over and out for this week, but you can count on it. We will return.